It was the first week into my marriage when my husband and I went to stay at his stepmother's house. That night, we slept in my sister-in-law's room because they didn't have an extra guest room for us. Around 5 o'clock, I was woken up by the sound of a guitar playing outside the window of this bedroom. The sun was just starting to rise, and I could see the lights coming through the blinds. But the guitar wasn't playing any song. It was sounding like somebody was plucking a few chords or notes on the string only. I sat up and I listened to it carefully, and it sounded like it was getting closer. I tried to wake up my husband, but he just wouldn't wake up. I found it to be very strange because he's such a light sleeper. So I just decided to lay back on my back, and suddenly I felt this invisible force coming down from the ceiling. The best thing I could describe it is as if someone was putting a big piece of plexiglass on top of me, and I could feel it, but I couldn't push it away. And then I felt my legs go numb and my fingers go numb, and I couldn't move anymore. And I tried calling for help, but I couldn't make a sound. I tried to turn my head and move my arm to wake him up, but it was like I was stuck in quicksand. My arms and legs became really heavy and I just couldn't move. If you would imagine someone putting this big plexiglass on top and they were like pushing down on you, and no matter how much you fought back, you couldn't get that pressure off the chest and off your belly. And so I was very terrified at that time. I turned to look at my husband, but I couldn't turn my head, so from the corner of my eyes, I looked over at him and I was pleading for him to please just wake up and help me. I couldn't make a sound. I tried calling his name over and over again, but nothing came out of my mouth. It felt like my voice was stolen from me. That's the best way I could explain it. I felt like it was stolen. And so as I lay there helpless, and with this crushing force on my chest and belly, I just kept thinking to myself, God, please help. And I thought about my dad, and I said, Dad, please help. As I'm lying there, I'm looking over at my husband from the corner of my eye, and I could see like this pair of hands just coming out from the edge of the bed. And they reached over him and they were feeling him. They were like feeling, these hands were feeling his body from his shoulder to his chest to his belly, as if looking for a place where they could grab or get a hold of. And when they got to my husband's boxers and they had a good grip, those hands started to pull him slowly over the edge of the bed. And I thought to myself, it's now or never. Like, I need to break free from this trance, from this invisible force. I needed to find the strength to break free. And that's what I did. I just kept thinking about God and my father and how I needed to save my husband. And for some miracle reason that I can't explain, I felt this feeling of warmth wash over me. And this invisible force that was crushing me lifted. And I instantly turned to the side and grabbed my husband's arm, because at this point he was literally falling off the edge of the bed. So I grabbed his arm and I just remember got on my knees and I was playing tug of war with whatever this thing was that had a hold of my husband's shorts. And then I got a better grip on his armpit when I put my arm underneath his arm, and I pulled him up, and we both fell towards the other side of the wall. And my husband woke up. And he scrambled next to me, and I could tell he was really afraid. And we both looked around, and the room was completely dark. I swore when this started happening, I could see light through the window. But now it was completely dark. It was so dark that you couldn't even see shadows. It was like we were transported to this room with absolutely no window, no moonlight, no lights from the hallway door, nothing. And we waited there for like a minute. Somehow the room became brighter. And that's when I noticed that the lights were coming through the blinds again. Now my husband was really scared and I was scared. And so we didn't talk about it. We just stayed up. We went to stay in the living room and we just talked and watched TV the whole entire time because everybody was still asleep at this point. And he and I weren't sure what it was that we had experienced. Later that day, when I spoke with my husband, he told me his version of the story. And it was that at that time when I was being pushed down by this invisible force, my husband was laying down facing me. So his back was to the edge of the bed. And when he opened his eyes, he saw that I was looking at him, like my eyes were turned towards him, but my head was facing the ceiling. And for a moment that he was confused, he wasn't sure why I was sleeping with my eyes open. And then when he realized that there was this cold hand touching him, that was when he couldn't move anymore. His leg and his arm became very limp. And he tried and tried, but he just couldn't move. And then he felt those cold arms start to roll him off the edge of the bed. So when those arms got a hold of his pants, it flipped him onto his back, and they continued to flip him over. His body or his head was facing the edge of the bed, so his back was towards me at this point. And as he was starting to go down and off the edge of the bed, he just saw that these arms, they extended all the way underneath the bed into this dark area. And then right before he fell, suddenly he just felt me grab onto him. And whatever happened after that, he just felt like he was being tugged in all directions.
Help me. Please help me.
After this, we stayed away from that room for a really long time. Like, I think it took us 4 years before we would even step foot in that room again. To this day, we're not sure what happened, but that's what we experienced. And like we always joke, what a great way to start our marriage.
Subscribe now.